Succeeding in current times will require B2B businesses to have a maniacal focus on the customer. This means revenue leaders driving businesses must have full visibility into the various stages of the customer journey and meet the customer where they are in the medium of their choice and with the exact kind of information they might be looking for. This is possible by having access to customer data. Business leaders today need to be able to capture this critical customer data, the insights from which can be used to run predictable revenue engines. So, how can RevOps teams approach customer data in a way that helps them generate more revenue for their business? Let's explore with our guest today. We have Leore Spira, who is currently heading revenue operations at Buildots. She is globally recognized RevOps leader with a track record of establishing and building RevOps departments in multiple startups. She's also the co-founder of the Optimizers, the first Israeli professional community for operations leader, recognized by Startup Nation. Lior, welcome to the Revenue Launch podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for the nicest intro I've ever had in a podcast.
No, I mean, I still remember how kind you were 3 years back when I first interacted with you, and you helped me with like early feedback on Nectar. So yeah, I mean, from that day till today, I was just waiting to have you back on the podcast. So great to have you today, and thank you for the work you've been doing for the RevOps community. So let's get started. My first question, as we get into this, would be just to know a little bit about you. If you can just start with your story, your background, so that our listeners get to know a bit more about you.
It's a good question. So first of all, I'll start from the end. Like, I don't know how I became a revenue operations leader and expert, but I guess life brought me here. Basically, I studied law. My parents' dream was me becoming a lawyer in real estate, by the way. So I studied law, and I did my internship in one of the biggest firms here in Israel, and then I passed the bar exam, but I felt that something wasn't right from the beginning. So I kind of broke my parents' dream and just shifted my career into a different path. I joined a nonprofit organization as part of the marketing team, and I was responsible also for the CRM there. This is how I first met a CRM platform with Salesforce, and and started to think how to leverage such tool, especially in a non-profit organization when you have limited budget. So I was responsible not just for the marketing, but also for building processes and understanding like the organization strategy. And this is where I started my master's studies about government strategy and marketing. And after 2 years there, I wanted to do more and I wanted to build my career. So I transitioned again and changed my career path and joined a high-tech company. Actually, it was a corporate. So I think before joining startups, I saw how large organizations actually have stable processes, how they measure, how they operate, how they established like very strong go-to-market teams. I joined the marketing team, but very soon I transitioned into sort of a marketing supporting sales operations position. And after a few years there, I've left for a startup. I started as sales operations as I found it more, challenging and intriguing. And from there, it was sales and marketing operations. Later on, it was sales and marketing operations, but more of a revenue operations because it also was with CS operations. But back then, there was no such roles. And I've established 3 departments in 3 different startups. Most of them are revenue operations, but in the past, 3 years, I've been like my title has also, transformed into revenue operations because this is where the ecosystem started to speak about, not just what is revenue operations, but also understood that it's not just marketing or sales operations. It's more. It's like the customer journey. And somehow I got here, and I guess that this is also why I founded the community here in Israel, because especially in Israel we have very techy startup nation ecosystem. And we have a lot of technology. We have a lot of go-to-market positions. We have a lot of R&D positions. We have a lot of product positions. But operations was like something that nobody really understood what it means. And I've always felt like a lonely wolf at a company, because usually I like built everything from scratch by myself. Later on, I had a team, but a very small one, and usually worked with freelancers. But now I think it's nice to see how it evolved into like a whole new, not just topic and a mystery, but also, companies understand exactly how critical we are. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the most interesting intros and journeys I've heard. How people get into RevOps. So, being from the law background, I'm sure you'll be like great with negotiations with the go-to-market teams, which continue to pull the RevOps teams into different directions with different priorities. So, I hope the law background comes handy in such situations.
Of course. This is my power. This is my power.
Yeah, that's your superpower. So let's move on to build-outs. Love to hear about your role here specifically. How's the RevOps team structured? And if you can just like dive a little bit deeper there, that'll be great.
Sure. So Buildot is a construction tech company, and I had a conversation with our CEO a few months ago, and he asked me like, how is our product? And I told him that the reason that I joined companies, by the way, not just by the role, but also by the product, and how and what we're selling and improving, in the ecosystem. And what we're doing is we're actually building a CRM for a very, very traditional industry, the construction industry, right? So it's really easy for me to resonate with not just what we're doing, but also with the messaging and also with the mission that I came and joined, and for what I came and joined BuildOts. Basically, I joined a year and a half ago. We had no real go-to-market teams, so I joined like at the very early stage together with the go-to-market leaders to build everything from scratch, and not just the infrastructure over and build a tech stack, but also build the processes, and then train the team and hire new sales reps, marketeers, and CSMs, to make sure that they are all aligned, and basically break the silos, and and ensure that we're not speaking the same language, but also we're connecting the dots along the process. So we did everything from scratch, all of us together. So it was very, very challenging, but also super exciting. And I think it was a great opportunity, because I think it was the first time and I've established two departments in the past, but it was different because I inherited the systems, I inherited some of the broken processes, and I made improvements, like, because most of what they had in place was built by usually sales or marketing, and then I came, and tried to fix and improve everything to first ensure scale, and second, make sure they were building a healthy customer journey. But here at BuildOut's, like since I think the CEO really believed in and still believing in building, the invest in the operations and the processes and the communication that we have with one another, to ensure that we not just bring the company into scale, but also we're making sure that we are all aligned with one another, because eventually this is what we're selling to our customers. We're selling them like, you should start with a digital transformation, and you should bring technology to your day-to-day, because this would create alignment, this would create a single source of truth, this would create like a holistic environment, and connect the dots between one department to the other, or with how you manage a project. And yeah, and it's like and basically, so I'm doing what we're also selling to our customers. So it's like it's a quick win for from several angles. So it's
Very interesting. And how big is the team at on the RevOps side?
So we are now three, but we're growing. But I think and this is how I see it, we grow as the teams grow. So our go-to-market are like a large team, but not so much, because we do believe in efficiency and we do believe in productivity, and this is why they have RevOps for us to, to help them measure and see that you don't need a huge sales department to generate millions of dollars. You just need like great people with the right skills that can manage customers or prospects and generate revenue. And we need to make sure that we are showing them, at least for and again, build it as a young company comparing to other startups that recruit, for example, revenue operations. So we're scaling all of us together, and I think that this is what's nice. It's like a harmony, not just with the process, but also with how our company is growing. From the go-to-market perspective and the cycle itself.
What you just said is music to the ears for many businesses today, especially in the current macro condition where companies are cutting costs. Unfortunately, layoffs are like more commonplace, and that's like the primary thing which everybody is doing to cut down costs. Then second is like cutting down tools and software. But I think you spoke about like a very important point, right, which is efficiency and productivity. Layoffs are not the only way to like get things done, right? There's also investment in driving efficiency, productivity, and that's where you mentioned RevOps can play a very important role. So I'd like to double click there and just get your thoughts on, and we can probably connect the next question I had, like in terms of what is revenue operations, and if you can probably pick the lens around how RevOps can further help drive that efficiency and productivity that you mentioned.
So as I see it, we are data people. So we believe in the data. And everyone says processes, everyone says, alignment, everyone says breaking the silos. Like it's great buzzwords, and I do believe, but eventually it all comes to data. And I think our expertise is not just bringing the tools and managing the integration and train the team on how to use the tools. Basically, what we do is we make sure that we generate the right data to then translate it into business insights and metrics to make sure, or to measure not just the KPIs, but also, see where we stand every day. So we can either use it to, to analyze quarter performance, team performance, individuals' performance, but we can also alert, in real time and understand exactly how where we stand, or if we see a drop or an anomaly that can be very, very important to the company, insights, or the company's, business, and we can alert in real time. We can help the team. I don't want to say help them to avoid failing, but we can help usually the go-to-market team members, just to be alerted on time and support them in a way so they won't fail. So they will, gain more points or improve themselves, during the quarter, instead of just analyzing the past and understand like this is what we did wrong, this is where we need to improve ourselves, this is what we need to do, like hire more people, or just we cannot avoid layoffs, things like that. And this is what's amazing about revenue operations, because it's not just sales operations anymore. You just can see also the influence of the teams on one another, and you can see that even alert management and leadership on, it's not that sales are not selling because they are just bad sales reps, right? Maybe it's because customer success are not providing enough references or success stories, or maybe marketing are not bringing the right persona into the table, or maybe we need to invest more in research and understanding the relationship, not just when we after we sign the deal, maybe before we need to map when we are mapping our customers or our prospects, or before we are even reach out to a person that we think it's like they have the right title, but they're not really either an influencer or even a decision maker. So, and they can be also a great champion, but it's not relevant for the deal. So yeah, I guess it's and especially in this time, post COVID, and now how the world is, we're seeing a lot of layoffs. We're seeing a lot of, like we are in the middle of a crisis, I think, another one, like after effect of COVID. And again, everyone is focused on efficiency. And I think it's not because companies weren't efficient enough. I think it's because they didn't put much focus on that. They tried to show growth. They said like, okay, so how do I replicate success? If I have 10 reps that are selling, let's bring 20 and we can double the revenue, and factors like, ramp up, onboarding process, and other things like vacations, regions, like stuff like that we're not taking any consideration. And then and also even with hiring, like the profiles and everything, a lot of like maybe they compromised because they wanted to grow the team fast and the competition out there was like insane, but eventually it was just not a good decision making process. And I think I know sometimes we bring the insights after, but at least we bring something, because then we can take it, backwards and say like, listen, we failed because this, and this. And having such function, at such an early stage can be super helpful to avoid such decisions, or to make sure that we're not just throwing everything to grow. We need to strategically understand how to do it better.
It's a very interesting definition and a very different way of putting revenue operations. When you mentioned that RevOps uses the power of data to do anomaly detection, and if you can do that in real time, alert on leading indicators, a lot of crisis can be avoided. So it's a very pivotal role, I would say. It's like a co-pilot, right, to the CEO in driving in the right direction. So I love that. Absolutely love that. So let's move to the customer journey. I think that I'm keen to hear your thoughts, because you've been writing a lot of stuff about it in your newsletter. So how would you define customer journey, especially in 2023, and why is it so essential to get it right?
That's a good question. I think we can see a shift, with the company strategy, even with startup. And I had a nice conversation, before I came here and started blabbering about revenue operations. But I think like companies as in general, not just enterprise or corporates, but also a lot of startup, we're starting to think like corporates. Meaning, I think the customer journey has transitioned into fast selling, into something that is more you know sophisticated, or you need to put more effort, not just in how you manage your sale, but also how you manage the relationship. And if you see if you look at customer journey, I think that in most companies, and I guess this is why I started from sales operations, because back then, like 10 years ago, 6 years ago, sales was king. Everybody, like, the revenue was dependent on sales. Marketing and sales, had their own issue, because sales complained that they couldn't sell because marketing didn't brought bad leads and fights, and marketing accused sales for not managing or just disqualifying great leads that cost money. And it's like the general conversation that we're all used to. But as I see it, the customer journey, it's not from a lead to an opportunity, to a business deal. It's like you need to look at it from a customer perspective, even if there are still prospects. And the reason is that, and this is also what we found here at BuildOts, is you need to invest in the relationship. And usually, and I guess I had the same, like I managed or implemented the same process in my previous companies, but we never called it, or we never knew what we were really doing, because we had ABM. It was more marketing focused and less on the business side. But we started investing in companies, because at the end of the road, when you talk about customer journey, it's like the relationship that you are managing with the customer along the whole process. And as I see it, what's mostly important is not measuring the process. Yes, conversion rates are important. You need to understand how a lead converts to an opportunity, why it's failing, and things like that. Because with the metrics, you can not just improve the process, you can also understand the performance, and then improve the team productivity, right, and support them. But eventually, what you do is you need to understand the handshakes, because the friction is there. And when and as I see revenue operations, and yes, so we can alert when things are going wrong, or if something like the numbers are going down when they should go up, according to the KPIs that were set. But I think customer journey is, make sure that you don't have friction between one go-to-market department to the other. So if we are looking, on if we're building a holistic process, we need to look at the customer journey as a holistic journey, and super important, to see it that way, because then you cannot no longer you can manage the relationship and the conversation that you have with the customer, and then move forward, and help and support sales to make sure that we convert prospects into customers faster than we used to do it before.
Very interesting. I think one of the important steps in customer journey is also defining the ideal customer profile. So, what are your thoughts there in terms of how can a RevOps team go about building this ICP?
So what I did, by the way, in my previous company, and I think it was a really nice project of RevOps, and we are also trying to do it here. And basically, I did it at every company, but we actually named it as a project. Is to define a good ICP is looking at your customers. And I think that using the data, and as I said, we are RevOps leaders, what we do is we use the data to make the decision and to support the decision-making process. And this is how we can support, usually sales, and also, of course, the founders and management is understanding with the data, from the data, if our ICP definition is correct or not, based on territory, based on the type of personas that are involved along the process, based on the company size, and of course, based on the cycle. I think that ICP should be defined not just by winning the deal and bringing the new logo into the company. It's you need to look more on the LTV, right? Lifetime value. You need to understand exactly an ideal customer profile should be a customer that, yes, you will lock him at first. Maybe the deal would not be that big. Maybe the sales cycle can be long, but eventually the success of the customer, and this is how you also replicate success. And when you replicate success, this is your ICP, is by understanding how you grow, your customer. So if the LTV is growing, then this is a success. They use the product, they enjoy the product, they want to increase, like they're increasing the usage, they are great ambassadors, and this is like what a real ICP, and this is how you replicate success.
And how do you get this data collected? I think one of the big challenges that we keep hearing from various folks we've spoken with on this podcast is about one is like charting the customer journey in line with the ICP that you define. But how do you go about collecting this data? That's one of the big pain points for most businesses, that the data quality, one is either it's missing, or the data is not of good quality, and it creates a lot of like downstream challenges later on.
Yes, we're always like, we have issues with data. We have discrepancies, and usually it's because either the tools, the implementation. But I think if you're a good RevOps leader, you would build a process when you understand the real need or the real pain of the team, and of course the company. And I think this is why RevOps should work alongside with the go-to-market and not be part of them, because then we're obligated, and we're like Switzerland. We are working for the company, and we want to support the company. Of course, also the teams themselves, but um, and when you do that, and you build a solution, a holistic process and solution, and you break the silos, right? Then you would not you first you would be an expert in, and you don't need to be a lawyer for that. You'd be an expert in saying no, and it means that you'll build a process that would be scalable and easy to modify when you change a little bit the strategy, or you see some discrepancies with the data or anomalies that alerts you that something is going wrong. You would also bring the right tools from the beginning, and you build the infrastructure from the beginning in a way that would suit the go-to-market strategy, and not just as I usually see, or especially saw in my previous companies, focus on sales. And because when you do that, then you have like the data integrity is compromised. And to make sure that it doesn't happen, you have to look at the customer journey process from a high level perspective, and you need to make sure that you bring the right tools from the beginning, or the essential and the critical ones. And you need to invest in a tech stack that will not, yes, it should make the user's life easier, and push the data, but yet it should we need to make sure that we're not compromising anything along the process. And saying no to managers, saying no to management, saying no to any crazy initiatives that they think would be good for the company or good for the process, but actually not. This is our main skill, and this should be one of our strongest ability when we face go to market and we face management. Because if you bring everything and you mess with data from the beginning, it will be very, very hard to trust it and to become a data-driven company. And also, you need to make sure that you build everything in a way that the users are engaged with you and they want to use the platforms. Because once they go outside and they start working with, let's say, Excel spreadsheets, or I don't know, any other platform that is not your CRM, then you're done, because you either create a false positive or a false negative. So, and this is very important.
Got it. So moving to metrics, what are the metrics that you typically track and you recommend other DevOps teams to start tracking in order to measure the success of their customer journey?
Yes, we need to measure, conversion rates, funnels. Now, cohorts are more important, especially when you measure efficiency. But of course, and also win rate and loss rate, which is super important, I think, because especially now you need to understand what you're losing customers, because this would help you to understand your ICP. But also, of course, churn, LTV, and sales velocity, because especially when you're moving into an ABM and ABX strategy, then your sales cycle usually becomes much longer. And even if you're a startup and you run fast and you want to close deal first, when you invest a lot of time in building the relationship to ensure expansion and retention, which are also very, very important metrics, you need to understand that your sales cycle would probably be longer, and therefore you need to invest more time in measuring churn and LTV. And I think based on that, also retention and expansion, because this is how you secure your revenue growth. So I think revenue operations, the transition from sales operations and sales and marketing operations into RevOps, including customer success, you can see that that the customer metrics versus the prospecting metrics has become more. Not just important, but I think a focus, because again, this is how you measure efficiency.
Got it. And can you run some examples in past basis your experience how you successfully use customer data to improve this B2B customer journey? It will create a very tactical and actionable advice for our listeners.
A great example would be, so in my previous company, what we did is like we saw that we're selling a lot of like we're signing a lot of deals. We have a lot of bookings. We have even POC sometimes, because we want to lock, we wanted to lock new customers, and we brought them to the company. We showed them the solution. We had a wonderful onboarding. So we also, so we reached our onboarding KPI and metrics. So everything was success, but then shortly after, they would opt out, right? They would use their termination clause. And I think that what we discovered is, so based on that data, like measuring the churn rate and understanding exactly what it means about our POC, we've discovered that first we need to focus on specific territories and remove some, because they were not just a waste of time, but also so we brought the deal, we brought the customer, but we lost a lot of money because we invested internal resources on the customer success, but then we failed, right? And I think we didn't fail because the onboarding wasn't right. I think because the customer, like first they had the option to leave, and also another decision that we made is like stop with the POC and stop with the termination clauses, right? And secure customers for at least 1 year subscription, even if they would not return and sign another year, right? They would just, but at first we would have like a full subscription year at first. But I think this helped us, understand how and improve how we approach and how we secure and make sure that our sales process is focused on selling the solution and working with our SDRs and BDRs on not selling just a meeting, because the customer needs to know, the product, the use case, and get like some kind of overview about what their ROI would be, and how we would achieve their success criteria, and also support the customer success team in in managing their customers, in a better way, so they're not just, like have the onboarding process and then move forward, and then wait for them to go live, let's say, and start using the product. Like, make sure that we manage the relationship throughout the onboarding process. Make sure that we are explain, like, we're using these metrics. We're not waiting for the NPS score. We are generating metrics along the process to ensure that we know at any time what is going on with our customers. And this is also how it helps you, to manage your relationship with your prospect, because eventually, again, you want to reduce churn. You want to make sure that your market is well educated and aware on how we solve our customers or prospects problem. And you cannot do that without customer metrics. And it's not just satisfaction, and it's not just, the level of engagement, and it's also the adoption, the usage, like how they enjoy, how they see our product, and eventually how they will be our ambassadors and help us bring more revenue to the company. So I think, and again, a lot of people and founders, especially here in the Israeli ecosystem, they see us like the revenue operations teams as Salesforce admins or as the technical support, like go-to-market support. They see us as the ones that will create the field in the system and then maybe generate a report. But eventually, and it gets me back to the data. Like, we take the data to generate business insight. We take the data to help management and to help the company understand what we're doing wrong and what we're doing good. And like, we bring another aspect of it's not just strategy, it also understanding what we're seeing, understanding that the data can be useful, for this friction, can be useful in this milestone, can be fixed any friction to make sure that everything goes smoothly, and like the information goes from one department to the other. Because my success is the go-to-market team's success. My success is the company's success. And it's very important. And, understanding our customers is super essential and critical, because if you don't understand your customers, you won't be able to sell. If you don't understand your customers, you won't be able to make them stay and keep using the product, and then expand, and then, talk about how wonderful and how we are disrupting even construction, right? Industry. So this is how you replicate success.
And yeah, I think there's a famous saying, right? You take care of your customers and they'll take care of your business. So it always starts with like customer first. So this brings me to the last question of our first section. Before we move on to the rapid fire, I think you mentioned during our initial conversation that you're going to focus on ABX. I believe that's account based everything, account based selling. So that's something which is very interesting, and I think a lot of organizations are going to focus on account expansion, account based selling this year. Now, with budgets getting slashed across companies, trying to retain and serving existing customers becomes very logical. But how can RevOps support their organization, their company in this initiative? How can they help retain and expand the existing high value important customers? You want to just add some color to that?
Yeah. So because revenue operations, we provide service to all go-to-market teams, and we see everything from a higher level, and we also build the full customer journey process, and we are not concentrating just on marketing or just on sales, on just our customer success. Well, as I see, ABX it's a holistic approach. It provides infrastructure and overview on in our systems that can be essential to in any touch point. So if it's a marketing touch points, if it's a sales touch points, or customer success, and revenue operations can do that because um, we create a 360 customer overview, because we are promoting digital transformation even internally in companies by building a policy and a process, then translating it into data by bringing the right tools, and then analyzing to provide business insights and metrics to support the decision-making process and ensure that the company is a data-driven organization. ABX allows you to put to build the infrastructure and plan the process in a way that it not just allow you, to analyze your revenue growth. It also allows you to, build a seamless process, make sure that you're actually implementing a 360 overview. Sorry. You can also make sure that you're building, you're translating, which is super, by the way, hard to do. You're translating a relationship process into data and metrics to make sure and to have it, at any time, some kind of knowledge, like where you stand with your customer, or even before that, your prospect. So I think ABX and RevOps are super essential because, understanding the territory and understanding the prospect reach out. If it should start from a lead, if it should start from a contact, how you build like a relationship with your prospect before you generate an opportunity, because you start to understand that a business opportunity should not be, something you need to rush in opening, because eventually if it becomes a closed lost, then it's you failed somewhere. And it allows you, to understand your ICPs, build the right messaging, educate your market in the best way you can, or reach out to the relevant people, to make sure that eventually when you work in an opportunity, you bring everyone to the table, including not just the champion, also the influencer and the decision maker. And later on, when you close the deal and you bring customer success and you start working on the implementation and the onboarding process, you make sure that you have everything in the system to ensure that you are doing it right, and you're asking the right questions, and you're giving the right answers when they have problem, and you can investigate when you see a problem with the usage, with the delays, with the number of cases that you can see. And I think this approach can help you become a more customer-led company than just, focusing on sales. Because, yeah, you can win, as I said before, you can win the deal, but once you lost your customer, you didn't grow. So
Turn bites really bad in SaaS business. Yeah, I think you're right there. So yeah, that's brings us to the next part of the podcast, which is rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you like a few questions here, and give me your candid, quick answer that comes to your mind. So let's get started. The first one is your favorite book that you loved in the recent past.
measure what matters. It teaches you how to measure only what matters. Like, you can use the data and measure everything, including, the time, the like for how long you had your meetings, like your demo meetings, if it's an hour or less, or calls. But sometimes it's irrelevant. You just need to hit the call, or just wrap it and have like one meeting to close a deal, and you don't need to measure everything. So it's really nice book.
It's such a good advice for anybody in RevOps, right? Measure what matters. Okay, so question number two. What's your favorite part about working in ops?
Oh, the influence and the impact that we have on the company success. So it's, I love it.
And what's the least favorite part?
That sometimes you know that you are right. You are trying to convince everyone that you are right. You then we move forward, and implement some like a process that you're gonna change and modify like in the near future. But then again, sometimes it's nice also to say I told you so. So it's yeah.
Yeah. And who's one RevOps leader you personally look up to and why?
Recently, I met Tony Holbein, and he invited me to a conference in Denmark to speak about RevOps. I was the only Israeli there. It was really nice. Yeah, but I think I really enjoy even today. Like we have a conversation every now and then, and we share a lot of knowledge. And I think it's really hard to find someone that actually believes, that RevOps is not just tools. Tools is the least fun aspect of the position and the role. Like we have so many other things that you can speak about and define RevOps. And I think and I learn a lot from him, you know, not just about how he sees RevOps, but also how he speaks about RevOps. So yeah.
Yeah, I caught up with him later part of last year. We did exchange a lot of interesting notes. Yeah, yeah. Second last question for today. What's an advice that you received from someone that stayed with you?
Relax. And I know that RevOps is still a mystery. I see it, I feel it, even in my own company, but we'll get there. I think we have a lot to do. I think revenue operations will become more than what it is today. Companies just need to, it's not just having trust in this role, it's just, giving us the independence or bringing us more into the table because we're not there to annoy. We are just putting reality, in their face, and just be patient. We'll get there, all of us.
Relax is the keyword for me there. I'm going to take that. Yeah, as founders, I think we need to relax as well. But yeah, great advice. The last question for today. What's one piece of advice you'd like to give to our listeners?
I guess, take more initiatives, try remove yourselves from just managing tools and integrations and trying to understand the data. Build your network, reach out to experts, read, research, and basically, internally, just make sure that you're asking for more. You need to speak up. Nobody will give it to us. You need to show. You need to show that you're there. You need to express the knowledge. You need to remove yourself from just technical. Understand what you're doing. If you are now in a more technical position, it's fine, but try to bring and understand the added value. Try to understand that if you build and you create this field right now, would it do good or bad? And if you think it's going to do more bad than good, then you need to speak up and you need to explain. You need to explain, the idea. You need to understand the goal. You need to explain, the implications, and don't be afraid to say no. Even if you'll do it anyway, at least they would know that they made mistakes once you modify and have to change everything to the original idea that you suggested.
Thank you, Lior. That was great. You've been a lovely guest today. Really appreciate you spending time and sharing all the insights. And good luck with your newsletter. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had a blast. Thank you so much.